In a breaking scandal of titanic proportions, a 2002 interview has come to light in which Vice President Mike Pence says he will not dine alone with a woman who is not his wife and does not go to events where alcohol is served unless his wife is present. The left erupted with outrage at the news that Pence took steps to avoid being unfaithful to the woman he loves. Some compared Pence to a Muslim, though being a Muslim is of course fine, but Pence is worse. Not to say Muslims are bad, but something. As one Twitter leftist put it, quote, "It's very important that I comment angrily on the personal lives of people I dislike. Otherwise, I'd have to confront the fact that my own life is a meaningless vortex of anger and loneliness that compels me to spread the same leftist values that have made me so terribly, terribly unhappy," unquote. Feminists, of course, were particularly bitter and outraged about the remark. They were also bitter and outraged before the remark, during the remark, and after the remark. As prominent feminist commentator Shrilly Miserable told the Cats in her partially furnished studio apartment, quote, "It's offensive to women to think that just because one of us sits down to have dinner with Mike Pence, she would want to run her hands through his authoritative silver hair and gaze deeply into his steely brown eyes while sort of accidentally touching his muscular calf with her stockinged foot and confessing that sometimes she secretly wishes some powerful man would come along and rescue her from the drab emptiness of her own misguided philosophy," unquote. Journalists also joined what NPR called the, quote, "Mike Pence misogyny debate." The journalists felt the conversation wasn't quite as stupid and shallow as it could be, and they were sure the opinions of journalists would fix that problem right up. The website Vox ran an article saying it was illegal for Pence not to dine alone with women. I'm not making that up. And Cosmopolitan's website ran an article mocking Pence just one day after they posted a confessional piece by a, quote, "side chick," that is the girl who was sleeping with your husband because he didn't follow the rules laid down by Mike Pence. And of course, we all remember how the media celebrated Bill Clinton's, quote, "complicated love story" after Clinton whitewashed his marriage of infidelity and sexual harassment during his convention speech last year. Well, those same venues attacked Pence for being, quote, "a puritanical, latent womanizer." That profoundly meaningless phrase comes from Slate, which is called Slate because you have to be as dumb as a paving stone to read it. The issue, for those of you who can't figure out why there even is an issue, is that Pence acknowledges the truth about human nature and takes steps to ensure he does what's right instead of what's wrong. When you're a leftist feminist standing out in the cold, wearing a stupid pink hat after voting for a woman who helped intimidate her husband's harassment victims into silence, that can make you feel kind of bad about yourself. Maybe it's just the hat. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shape, tipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray! It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
That's right. All right. We have best-selling cultural correspondent and troll supremo Michael Knowles is coming on to discuss just how very, very much the left loves science and supports science. And we're going to talk some more about Mike Pence and some news that's just breaking. Before that, I want everybody who is watching this program or listening to this program to take a look in the mirror and ask yourself the question, would you let that person operate a piece of heavy machinery? Of course not. People who listen to the Andrew Klavan Show are 90% more likely to drift into states of Vedic bliss, which makes it impossible to drive a car, and that's why you want to get Lyft. Lyft is an app, Lyft. It's an app. You just download it, press it, you can get a car at your house in just a few minutes. And this is different than the competitor, than the competition, because Lyft puts safety absolutely number one. Every driver is fully vetted through a 10-point safety standard, including third-party criminal and DMV background checks. So you get a Lyft that is creep-free. You don't have to worry about being safe and comfortable. The vehicles have to pass a 19-point vehicle inspection, and Lyft even has an industry-leading insurance plan which protects you the moment your Lyft driver picks you up. And Lyft offers a better experience because you know why? You can tip the driver in the app. That is innovative, and it makes your guy happier. And that's also why 9 out of 10 Lyft rides get a perfect 5-star rating because you get a happy, safe, creep-free experience. And Lyft has a new AMP device which uses a color-coded system so you can easily find the right car and you don't have to say your name to your driver through a cracked window. It's all designed to get you where you need to go A, without letting someone like you drive a car, which, let's face it, is a disaster, and B, gets you there safely and pleasantly. Right now, Lyft is offering our listeners a special deal for new users. Get 3 free rides up to $10 each. I don't even know why I have to sell people on this stuff if they're giving it away. 3 free rides for up to $10 each. That's up to a $30 value when you enter the promo code in your app, Klavan, Klavan. Klavan. You got to spell it right to get the promo code. Just download the free Lyft app today and enter promo code Klavan. In the payment section, you'll start with 3 free rides up to $10 each. That's up to a $30 value. That's promo code Klavan. That's promo code Klavan in Lyft, Lyft. All right. So before we get to what I really want to talk about, I have to just talk about this breaking news that was happening as I was driving into work. White House lawyers, it's now been revealed that White House lawyers have discovered, over the weekend, I wrote this piece called Obama Spied, Media Lied. It's now featured on Real Clear Politics. I wrote it for my PJ Media blog, Klavan on the Culture. But it's just about the fact that this whole Trump and the Russian story is falling apart. Adam Schiff, who has been casting about these McCarthyite accusations, now admits they don't have any evidence that Trump colluded with the Russians. But this thing about Obama surveilling Trump is really coming together. It's really becoming a big story. And the latest part of the story is that former National Security Advisor Susan Rice, and we all remember Susan Rice, she's the one who went on 5 morning talk shows on Sunday and lied about Benghazi not being a terrorist attack, right? And then they kind of threw her under the bus because it wasn't us who lied, it was Susan Rice. Rice has now been asking, it's now been shown that Rice was asking to unmask people who had been caught up in surveillance. American citizens caught up in surveillance of foreigners, their names are supposed to be masked. Apparently, Susan Rice was contacting the NSA and asking them to unmask these things. So obviously that was so the news could leak and she could send all this stuff to the press. And what is interesting about this is it also gets Devin Nunes off the hook. If you remember Devin Nunes, they were saying, why did he have to go on the White House grounds to get this material? Well, it was in the NSA computers probably where Susan Rice was making these requests. And I just want to we'll have to talk about this more tomorrow if we can, but I want to get on to other things because this news is just breaking. But before I stop, I just want to point out that Susan Rice was asked about this stuff by Judy Woodruff not that long ago. Let's play this cut.
In the last few weeks, the New York Times has reported that in the final days of the Obama administration, individuals went out of their way to spread information throughout the government about what they knew about intelligence, that the Russians had interfered in the election last year, and that there may have been a connection with Trump campaign officials. So that story's now been out there for several weeks. Could there be a connection here?
I'm not aware of any connection. I had read the New York Times story. I must say, Judy, as one of the most senior White House officials and the most senior responsible for national security, I found that report a bit perplexing. I was not aware of any orders given to disseminate that kind of information.
Well,
so I have no idea whether that was the case.
Well, that sounded almost like a bald-faced lie to me. You know, is bald-faced going too far? I just love in this administration that Trump says wiretap instead of surveilled, and the lead is he lied. He lied, as well. But the Obama people, they just lie. They just lie, and nobody ever says it. They're just lying. So there's going to be more on that coming down the pike. All right, I got to talk just a little bit more about this Mike Pence thing because this is absurd. This is the way, they make it say, first of all, if he were a Muslim doing it, nobody would say a word. If he were an Amish doing it, nobody would say a word. The fact that he's a Christian who wants to protect his marriage, he called it a zone of protection around his marriage. This is a big deal. First of all, I think, why is it anybody's business the way the guy runs his marriage and keeps himself safe? And second of all, why do we have to ignore the fact that men, especially powerful men, get a lot of opportunities? Powerful men get a lot of opportunities, A, and B, men are susceptible to seduction kind of like water is susceptible to running downhill. So all he's doing is acknowledging the truth of this. And what the point I want to make today, the thing I want to talk about today, is how radical the left is and how much the press and the narrative tries to teach us that radical, destructive idea they have of what people are like, what men and women are like, what Supreme Court justices are like, and what they should do, how radical it is, and how everything they do is meant to convince us that this is the norm. It should be normal for a man. Why does he have to be this, jihadi Christian who won't even sit down with a woman? Well, he's just acknowledging the truth about the way men are and the way women are and the way things go. Why is that so difficult? Why do we have to all lie to make the left feel better? And it's always the same argument. Well, it's not fair. It's not fair that a guy can go out with Mike Pence and sit around and have a couple of drinks with him and kind of, solidify his relationship with the boss, but a woman can't do that. It's not fair. It's true. It's not fair. But on the other hand, it's not fair when you have guys like Bill Clinton sleeping with every woman in sight and using their power to intimidate people and possibly rape people. That seems a lot less fair to me. And it seems unfair to women that these poor political wives constantly have to stand there with that stupid smile on their face, standing by their men while their men cheat on them every other day. So Mike Pence is doing a decent thing. He's ensuring that he does the decent thing. Why is that so difficult? There was an article in the New York Times that it actually bowled me over that it was in the not what was in it, but the fact that it was in the New York Times, about the fact that the young people hold more traditional views, like young millennials hold more traditional views about what a good marriage looks like than older people, than people in that generation that got sideswiped by feminism and talked into this idea that men and women were the same and everything should be the same and everything should be egalitarian. Now, because it's in the Times, they use the term egalitarian, but you just have to override that for a minute and listen to what is actually being said. The proportion of young people holding egalitarian views about gender relationships, pardon me, rose steadily from 1977 to the mid-1990s, but has fallen since. In 1994, only 42% of high school seniors agreed that the best family was one where the man was the main income earner and the woman took care of the home. In 2014, 58% of seniors said they preferred that arrangement. That is a big jump. That's 16%. In 1994, fewer than 30% of high school seniors thought the husband should make all the important decisions in the family. By 2014, nearly 40% subscribed to that premise. In 1994, 83% of young men rejected the superiority of the male breadwinner family. By 2014, that had fallen to 55%. In other words, nature thrown out the door comes back in through the window. This is, they batter these young men and these young women with this false view of what makes people happy and what works in a family. I mean, listen, I don't mean to be shallow, but look at women. They're made for doing a certain thing. They were created for doing a certain thing, and it's fulfilling to do that thing. It doesn't mean there can't be other things in a woman's life. It doesn't mean there's not a point after you raise children where you can't go off and do other things. But it's like it's not in men's nature to do that stuff, and it is in men's nature to protect and to provide. And so like it's just they're selling us this radical stuff, and then when you say that's radical and it's destructive and it makes people unhappy and it makes children unhappy, and then they tell you that you're the bad guy, that there's something terribly, terribly wrong with you. And this is something that is standard in all cultures. Every single culture has a division between women's work and men's work. And women have always worked. They've always worked really hard. They just do different work. And so when somebody says, well, why aren't there more women in, the sciences? And why aren't there more women in math? It's like, every single culture for all of time has had this division. They are the radical ones. We're going to have to break and leave Facebook and YouTube, and then when we come back, we will have the all-powerful troll Michael Knowles. At this point, I just feel it's a privilege that this guy has come out from under the bridge where he's getting the Billy Goat's gruff to come over and join our show. And he has news, too. He brings insane news. Oh, he always brings insane news. But first we have to talk about Stamps.com. I love Stamps.com because everything in my life is about not getting caught on a line. Every single thing. I mean, I live in LA. I'm almost never on the freeways. I mean, I would walk before I get on the freeways because the freeways are always jammed up. And I would rather take more time to get somewhere and keep moving, I just want to keep moving. And that's why, as much as I love the post office, I don't like to go to the post office because there's always a line. And you can't get there 24 hours a day. I mean, I don't sleep at all, so I do stuff 24 hours a day. With Stamps.com, you get stamps delivered right to your computer. You can print them right out of your computer, right onto an envelope, right onto a label, any way you want to do it. And it's just like having a post office in your home. It's easy, it's convenient. You don't have to depend on the post office to be there. You don't need one of those gizmos. I keep trying to describe these gizmos. I can never remember what they're called. I don't know what are they called? Doesn't anybody know? You know why nobody knows? Because Stamps.com has made them irrelevant. That's why nobody knows. Everybody's forgotten. But they used to be these tremendous heavy things that you had in a business to print out your stamps, to get your stamps. It was just huge. And if you dropped it on your foot, you were a goner. But Stamps.com, you do it all from your computer. It really is so much easier and so much more flexible and convenient. Right now, you can enjoy stamp service with a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus postage and a digital scale without long-term commitments. That means you don't have to leave your house to weigh the stuff that you're mailing. You know how much stamps you need. So go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and type in Klavan, Klavan. I keep doing this because people misspell it. It's Klav as in Victor, A-N. That's Stamps.com. Enter Klavan. Stamps.com. Enter Klavan, and never go to the post office again. We got to say goodbye to Facebook and YouTube. Come on over to thedailywire.com and listen to the rest of the show, or subscribe for a lousy $8 a month, and you can watch the show right at the site.